Hello everyone, first news update for 11th of March. Now it's 9 o'clock in the morning Moscow time, and I have prepared quite a number of news about some major developments for this program, and I hope you will find it informative and interesting. I'll give you a short summary of the news that I will talk about in this program. First of all, of course, I will share with you information about the largest drone strike that Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO member states conducted against Russia. Hundreds of drones were used, of course, details in a minute. Also, I give you a latest about upcoming talks between a US delegation and the delegation of Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky that will take place in Saudi Arabia today. Also, update on developments on the line of contact, including Kursk salient area. Update on level of readiness and their involvement of their NATO member states in this proxy war. More and more countries are making statements in Europe that they are willing to send their armed forces into Ukraine, which is important development, I guess. Also update on upcoming talks between special envoy of US and the Russian side that will take place here in Russia, by the way, in a few days' time. Update on developments in Syria. Russia is getting more and more active to influence the situation in a positive way and to influence the situation so that this mass killings of ethnic minorities and religious minorities by Western-backed terrorist regime in Damascus will stop. We have update on that. Also, Serbia, by the way, is under the risk of coup d'etat. I'll give you update on that. Canada-US relationships. Ottawa is issuing some threats towards US. That's quite interesting. And of course, I'll give you update on an incident that happened of eastern coast of UK yesterday early morning when a tanker and a container vessel collided and both vessels caught fire. There is an update on that and many more news, dear friends. As I said, hopefully you will find this update interesting. And so let's start. And first of all, of course, information about this largest drone strike that Kyiv regime, with assistance of NATO member states, conducted against Russia last night, early hours of this morning. Latest reports are that Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 337 drones over the different regions of the Russian Federation. Drones were directed, including towards Moscow. I shared this information on my Telegram. Let's go through some numbers here, some precise information. So 91 drones were intercepted over the Moscow region. These drones were headed towards Moscow. 126 drones were intercepted over the territory of Kursk region. 38 drones were intercepted over Bryansk region. 25 drones over Belgorod region. 22 drones over the Ryazan region. 10 drones over the territory of Kaluga region. 8 drones over the Lipetsk region. 8 drones over Oryol region. 6 drones over Voronezh region. 3 drones over the Nizhny Novgorod region. As you can see, dear friends, numbers are quite massive. 91 drones were intercepted while they were approaching Moscow, and unfortunately there are reports about casualties. According to a report of a governor of the Moscow region, Vorobyov, 1 civilian was killed and 3 civilians were wounded as a result of these drone strikes. I'm afraid there is a high risk that in upcoming minutes and hours this information might be updated because obviously this was the largest drone strike on Russia in 2025 at least, potentially even since the beginning of their military hostilities. And information may be updated. One may ask, why now? Why now Kyiv regime, with assistance of NATO member states, conducted this large drone strike on Moscow? And my explanation is that Well, this is because Kiev regime and its new masters in London, first of all, among British royal family, British political class, and the globalists in general wanted to send a message to Moscow and Washington about capabilities that they still have to prolong this conflict and to escalate. And in previous days, there were reports that a number of representatives of Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky was saying that Kiev might offer during today's talks between U.S. delegation and Kiev regime's delegation a partial ceasefire and Kiev will propose to hold their long-range strikes and maritime operations in the Black Sea, and to demonstrate that they have a long-range strike capabilities. Probably they decided to launch these hundreds of drones in direction of Russia. Well, I don't think this terrorist attack on Russia will strengthen position of Kiev regime or its globalist backers, because Moscow will never agree on some temporary measures, and definitely Moscow would not agree on temporary ceasefire, being operations in the Black Sea or the long-range strikes. After all, one should keep in mind that Russia has much more significant capabilities when it comes to long-range strikes that Kiev regime or its European backers will ever have. As simple as that. So therefore, obviously, this is some kind of dirty, bloody games that globalists, UK's government and Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky is playing, and it will not go down well. Not just with Moscow, but with Washington also, I guess, and US delegation, I guess, will be quite upset today during these negotiations, during these talks, because they will perceive this action of the Kiev regime and its European backers as an attempt to derail peace talks. And I expect some strong statements from US delegation and from US leadership backing Washington. When it comes to this talks itself in Riyadh, I don't think it will be a success. Definitely not, because once again, Kiev regime seems like find their new masters. First of all, in London, and is emboldened, and therefore I don't think Zelensky or his criminal associates are gonna listen to Washington or to representatives of Trump's administration during today's talk. This is my prediction, by the way. I'm quite sure U.S. delegation, which will be led by head of State Department Marco Rubio, will be quite upset after these negotiations. We will find out in few hours' time. But meanwhile, still President of U.S. Donald Trump stated that he hopes there will be some success, breakthrough during these talks between U.S. and delegation and the Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. So U.S. President Donald Trump expressed hope for good results following the talks between U.S. and the so-called Ukrainian delegation in Saudi Arabia. He stated this while having a conversation with journalists on board of Air Force One, which is plane that services the presidents of the U.S. Okay, I can understand that Trump wants this conflict to end, this proxy war with Russia that West is waging to end, because it's extremely harmful for U.S. itself also, and for U.S.'s stand on a geopolitical map. But yet again, U.S. has significant opposition, and first of all in London, in Paris, and the U.S. has significant opposition from the globalists, to say the least, right? that are in charge of Europe right now. So therefore, I would not be that optimistic. I'm quite sure U.S. delegation, including U.S. president, gonna get her upset after today's talks, and some strong statements may be issued by White House and Washington officials. Meanwhile, we also have this report that I guess Trump knows perfectly well that Zelensky is sort of emboldened now, while he was received as a sort of spearhead of the. He was received or transformed into a sort of spearhead of the globalists. Indicator of that is that when Zelensky went to UK after a disastrous visit in Washington, he was received by King of UK, so-called King of UK, mass murderer. Obviously, entire royal family of UK is mass murderers and they're scum of humanity. Let's be clear on that. Right? I don't understand how anybody can have any respect for those mass murderers, by the way, that are guilty of death of tens of millions of people, by the way, that royal family. Tens of millions of people, potentially hundreds of millions of people in the last 300 to 500 years, right? And it still exists. I mean, this is unbelievable that this criminal murderous family still exists and is in charge, by the way, and they are playing quite significant role among globalists, right? They are key players among globalists. Don't believe in those speculations that royal family has no actual power. They do, by the way. They do have a power, unfortunately, and they're so-called elites in UK. And when Zelensky was received by this so-called King of UK, that was a clear message that globalists are taking care of Zelensky now, right? And this anti-globalist, let's say, forces that are now in charge of US definitely will have to deal not just with Zelensky, but with these globalist murderers, right? That are in charge there in Europe. And therefore, I'm not at all surprised that Trump wants Zelensky to quit, to get lost, basically. This was reported by NBC. So US President Donald Trump has privately made it clear to his aides that Vladimir Zelensky should quit as the Ukraine's leader. This was reported by NBC. I'm not sure we can trust NBC, by the way, but I can believe that Trump and his inner circle really wants Zelensky to be neutralized, and probably they will manage to achieve these results, and probably it's only a matter of weeks at this point, and Zelensky will be out of the office one way or another. But US definitely is in a position to make sure this will happen.
Hello everyone, if you find this video interesting and useful, please click that like button, leave some commentary and share with your friends. If you like my work and want to support this project, you can do it through several means. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment, including links to my Patreon and Boosty pages, where you can have access to full shows in case you are interested. Thank you.